What's happening, everybody? It's your man Dave DNYDC. It's two mics up, and we back. Special edition. This conversation tonight. Now, I feel like you guys are going to enjoy because tonight's guest, she has that energy. She really has that feel to really help educate us. In a manner that uh, when it comes to this topic that I think is really needed. It's really something that we don't talk about a lot, but we're going to get into that tonight in several different areas. We're going to try to really do our best to capture as much as we can in this time that we have. And who knows? You guys want more? We'll go ahead and we'll run this back and we'll bring you some more. So as we get into the tonight's conversation, I see people coming on in the room. Thank you for joining us. Let us know where you are joining us from, in the chat. Feel free to ask questions, share your thoughts. Let's be respectful. This is not a place where we like to tolerate or accept ignorance. Bring your grown folks hat, bring those questions, bring that energy. And I want to thank, our sponsors for tonight's program, 94 Media House, for just being that digital design company for small and medium sized businesses. If bold is really where you are and where you want to be, you want to check out 94 Media House. They are really just doing all excellent work. And you ask me, Dame, how do you know? Well, they're the ones that done all of mine. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and jump into tonight's conversation. Veronica, how are you doing? Thank you so much. We got Marilyn in the building. Hey, look, everybody here in the DMV and everybody in this storm. Hey, I hope you're somewhere safe. Be protected. Safety blessings and all of that craziness out here. Just be safe. Veronica, I want to thank you for joining us. But I'm going to jump in to our guest. And man, where do I start? Man, it's a real conversation, right? And we're going to go ahead and meet, some real change tonight with tonight's guest. Today we're tackling that topic that affects millions, but is often left in the shadows. We're talking about menopause. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome our guest, Dr. Joy L. Ballard. Dr. Joy L., how are you doing this evening?
Well, thank you so much. I'm doing okay. I'm in here trying to stay warm. I'm here in the DMV in Bowie, Maryland. Hey, Veronica. Just trying to stay warm and also stay sane with these three kids in here from, home from school all day.
Hey, look, I don't miss those days, but I know it's a handful, having them all at home at once, juggling so many different hats and so many things. But I feel that, that aspect of your life is one thing that, is your pride and your joy and that you treasure.
Right.
But I also every time we start, we have a conversation, I feel like we have to start at the beginning. We really have to kind of get back to who is Dr. Joy L. Ballard. What is it that really motivates you outside of your family to really, do the work and provide the services that you do to so many, each and every day?
Wow. Well, thank you for that question. Because it does start with our stories, right?
Hmm.
My story, I'm a board certified OBGYN who did not imagine herself out here in these menopause street talking about it, because that's not what I went in medical school and OBGYN training to do, right? Like I was going to go
Right.
deliver babies until I was 65. That was my plan.
Okay.
But God was like, no, that's not what the plan is, right? So it really, I started my own perimenopause journey at the tender age of 39.
Wow.
And I woke up after my 39th birthday, like soaked and wet. And I'm like, what what in the world? Like, what is this? And my birthday's in July. So I'm like, all right, so maybe I got overheated. My girls were like toddlers. Maybe the girls snuck in the bed and peed the bed and just snuck back out. But but it happens over and over again. And I'm like, nah. And I'm an OBGYN. So of course I like, I know what perimenopause, what to look out for. But I was a child, to be honest. And I was like, no, this ain't it. So I'm just going to go about my business. So I, just kind of tolerated it for months. And then I got pregnant. Unfortunately, that pregnancy ended in a miscarriage, but subsequently got pregnant a few months later. And I had my son. And I, breastfed him for about 8 months. And after I stopped breastfeeding, the night sweats came back like with a vengeance. Very moody, irritated. I'm snapping at the children, snapping at the husband. I mean, although the husband, sometimes he deserved it. Okay.
Hey, look here. I had to stick up for your husband. I don't know the brother. Hey, look, no male abuse tonight. we trying to learn. We trying to learn here too.
Right. But just totally out of character for myself. I did not recognize myself. I did not like myself as I was going through all these changes mentally, physically, emotionally. But again, I was this OBGYN. Now I have 3 kids. I have these patients to take care of. And I was someone who, I wanted to be that great doctor. I wanted to be that great mom. So I pretended that I was okay. I ignored my symptoms. I did all the things what I'm used to. I'm the oldest of 8 kids. So I'm used to taking care of people. Okay. So I'm used to taking care of everybody else except myself. Right. Wow. So I did that. My symptoms were, like I said, were just on 10, and I ignored them for a long time until one day, after seeing patients in the office, went to go pick up the kids from, daycare and school. And I was dozing off at the wheel. And I remember grabbing the steering wheel, praying to God to get us home. I'm like sipping on water, opening the windows, like doing all the things to keep myself awake, while my kids are in the back, watching videos, eating snacks. They have no idea that mommy is struggling. Wow. And thankfully we got home safely, but that was the day or the beginning of my realization that this is no longer sustainable. I really have to do this differently. And what changed it for me was me actually prioritizing me, because I didn't know how to do that.
Right.
And once I started doing that, my symptoms actually started to resolve. And as well as, seeing patients in the office, there's so many women coming in like struggling, and they didn't know what to do. No one's talking to them about it. So having those conversations with those women, especially Black women who were very much being dismissed and like, oh, you too young. You didn't know that's not what it is. All the things really inspired me to be more intentional about educating women about menopause and perimenopause. And that's when I decided to write my book. And then at the same time, God was nudging me like, you need to like create your own brand outside of the office. I'm like, God, I got 3 kids. I got patients. I don't got time. Like, what are you talking about? So I put that off for a little bit, but then, pandemic happened and things happened. And then that's when I decided to resign from clinical practice and start a coaching business to coach specifically Black women who want to start a service-based business, but it's struggling with menopause symptoms. So they don't feel that they can do it. And that's really my story too. Like I was having all these symptoms, also getting the nudge to do other things, but I'm like, I can't do that. Like I've got these symptoms going on. I got kids, I got this, I got that. So that really, basically kind of drawn me to, creating Menopause Moguls, which was my online coaching program specifically for Black women, to get in this space of not only educating women, but definitely empowering them through this journey, because it could be, definitely it's very difficult for lots of women. And like I said, I've been there, but it certainly does not have to be the doom and gloom that a lot of people make it seem.
Make it to be. And, it's interesting you say that because, even, not nowhere near, let me be clear, nowhere near what our women go through, but you have these midlife challenges, right? And listening to you talk, you know really digging into helping women not only with those challenges but their entrepreneurship and their business. um like, what patterns do you see or have you experienced that most often in your clients, and how did you help them work through those experiences to help shape their vision and really mission behind what you menopause moguls, which I really love, your brand. How do you help them and shape them through that process?
Right, right. So, because a lot of women, especially in these midlife years, they get this feeling or this nudge or this whisper that they have been created for more for what they're doing right now. And a lot of
Mhm.
that is sometimes just building a business. But at the same time, because they're dealing with these symptoms, and a lot of us are so used to taking care of everybody else. That's really the blockage,
Mhm.
right? The
Mhm.
the problem with them actually pursuing these entrepreneurial dreams because of number one, they're so used to prioritizing everybody else. And
Mhm.
number two, the symptoms or the feelings that they have about their bodies, about what they're going through, really breeds self-doubt and lack of confidence, and they don't feel like they can kind of do that thing.
Right.
So when I work with women in regards to that, I first talk about really changing the relationship that they have with themselves, in the fact that they're actually prioritizing themselves and choosing themselves first.
Mhm.
And that, requires them, really being still with themselves, right?
Right. Right.
And learning what their bodies are doing and learning what they want and what they need in this season of their life. Because it changes as we're aging. And we have to be accepting of that too. Like a lot of us, I hear a lot of women when they're going through these changes, like, I just want to get back to my normal. Like, girl, no, you
Mhm.
don't. No, you don't.
It
Because
it
I feel I've learned that this is really an opportunity for us to um, become the best next version of ourselves,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
that requires change. We're not
Right.
supposed to stay the same, right?
Yeah.
So I really help them be intentional about choosing themselves, even over their children. Like, there's a lot of women like, I got these kids. I'm like, I know, girl, I know you got these kids. However,
Right.
we have to put on what we say, put your oxygen mask on first. If you cannot take care of yourself
Is
first,
can't take care of nobody
your
else.
body will break you down eventually. Like,
Mhm.
we are so used to, wearing the S on our chest and doing all the things and not taking care of ourselves until our bodies break us all the way down and we can't take care of nobody else at that
Mm.
point.
Mm. You really bring up like some really great points that I really want to get into, because this growth and development and all of this stuff is really about an understanding, right? You're really coming into an understanding of menopause and what it is. Now, one of the first thing I just have to ask, because like you said, as a mother, look, our women, especially women of color, they are the
Mhm.
foundation and the backbone of everything that goes on in the black house. And fellas, you you don't know, you don't know, but you better understand. And I'm not saying that, you as the head of the house, you do have the final say in most cases, but running the household, the S on
Yes,
the chest, you hit it on the head, is mom all day long.
right.
And one of the things that as a father, as a husband, as a man who may be watching this live now, and fellas, I see people in the background. Don't be afraid. You can jump in here. It's a safe place. You can talk. What can we do? Because like we too as men, your change is also our change.
Yes.
So what
Yes.
tools can you share, maybe that where we can kind of arm ourselves? Because I mean, I'm not in that space yet. But for those who may have, like, how can we prepare ourselves, one, to be prepared for, but two, to support you in
Yes.
this change, because it's a growth and change for both of us.
Yes, most definitely. You hit the nail on the head, because I always say menopause doesn't happen to women. It happens to
Hmm.
everybody around her.
Hmm. Hmm.
Husbands, partners, children, co-workers. Like, is not just a woman issue. So for our men in the audience, so I think number one is really be in tune with the fact that women do change, and all of us, men change too, right?
Yeah, right.
But our change is different with this whole perimenopause thing. Okay, it's a little
Right.
different, and it can be a little, scary, not only for the husband, but scary for the woman too. So I think that as men, as the partners that are supposed to be our support system, just the understanding that change is gonna come, right? Being open to that change and being open to listening. I think that's the biggest thing for us as women. Having someone to listen to us as we are going through this change is so important. Because there's so many things, like you mentioned about being a mom. There's so many things that are going on in our lives that we're taking care of, and we have to just get it out. We're withholding it within ourselves, like all the things that we have to do with the children, with the job, and all the things, and our bodies are changing, and we don't talk about it. So you, as the partner, can certainly just ask the simple question: is how are you doing?
Right.
How can I help you? How can I best support you? And a lot of times, many women are like, well, I don't really know, to be honest. Which is a very honest answer, but at the same time, as the husband, as the partner, can be like, okay, well, let me know what I can do, in the meantime. And I also want to say with that is you actually offering her time to herself. I think that can be crucial to this whole journey. Because when you offer, right, like, because again, we're bogged down with all the things. When you offer a space where you know what, honey, go take a trip to get your nails done, or go take a walk, or go read your book somewhere else. Even we can stay in the house, go to the other room, read your book. I'll keep the kids over here. I'll take care of dinner. What all the things? Just offering her that space. Because a lot of women, we get guilty about, oh, I'm not taking care of the children. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm surely was guilty of that. No longer am.
Right. Because they'll be fine. Right. They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
They will figure it out. So I think, certainly listening is important. Asking the question of how best can I support you? And then also offering her that space to, have time for herself.
Right. I think I really love that. And one of the other things that I I didn't really understand, and just really kind of trying to educate myself for this, hey everybody, hey Chelsea, I see everybody in the background. Thanks for joining us. One of the things that I learned that, I guess there's this stigma, or I guess misunderstood practice, that menopause just happens when you turn 50, right? And I was just like, oh, wow, it's really interesting. From a medical perspective, Dr. Ballard, like, what do you wish like women in their 30s and 40s really understood about the timing, the stages, and the early signs of this transition?
Yeah. Like you said, this is not, I think a lot of people have the conception, the misconception where, oh, that's what happened when I'm older, like, 50s, 60s. Nah, girl. Like, perimenopause can start as early as the, late 30s. Like I said, for me, it was 39. And so my wish for women is to, be aware of that fact, that it can certainly start in your late 30s. And also them now that they know that, being proactive about their health then, at that point.
Right.
Because a lot of us, get into these big ages and now we're reacting to things that we're finding out about our bodies, as opposed to being proactive. And what I mean by that is, we get to these big ages and bodies are changing, we're getting high blood pressure and all the things, because we weren't being proactive before, thinking we had some time. Right. So I think, certainly being proactive in the sense of, again, creating the habit of taking care of yourself, eating, your plants, your veggies and all those things, moving your bodies, like getting into those good habits now, because it certainly helps when you're now transitioning into, perimenopause, into menopause and beyond. You having those habits, beforehand will help
Mm-hmm.
you through that, through those seasons.
Mm. That's really interesting and powerful in a sense. But you mentioned being a board certified OBGYN and a menopause strategist. And I want to take a step back because I want to try to be as thorough as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, watching this now or watching this on a playback, like, can you explain the difference between perimenopause and menopause,
Yeah.
to women who may be noticing these changes, but
Right.
like we said earlier, they just don't have the words, to explain what they're going through. And I think that's really important. And I just want to make sure I'm being thorough, with
Yeah,
this.
most definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because a lot of women didn't they just now realizing perimenopause is a thing. Like perimenopause, everyone's heard of menopause, but
Right.
perimenopause is like, what's that? So
Right.
peri meaning around menopause, right? So perimenopause is essentially, like I mentioned, can start as early as the late 30s. And that is when your body's actual hormones, estrogen, progesterone, all these hormones are now fluctuating. And
Mm,
that's when you can actually experience the menopausal symptoms of
mm,
hot flashes, night sweats, brain fog, skin changes, sleep disturbances, all these things during perimenopause. As
right.
opposed to menopause, menopause is actually just a day.
Oh. Oh.
Menopause is the day that you have had 12 consecutive months without a period with any bleeding whatsoever.
Oh.
So once you reach menopause, that day you've had 12 months with no period. Then after that, you're in postmenopause.
Oh.
And
Okay.
the average age of menopause can be about 50, 51. So before 50, 51, when that day comes, you're
Mhm.
considered perimenopause. And then after that day, menopause, okay, menopause hit. Then after that, postmenopause. But you can
Okay.
still have symptoms that last through the menopause day and then through postmenopause.
After.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. 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 My head just popped. Hold on. Because you said something about 12 months. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to go through a calendar year, if you will, to get to menopause. So
Right.
what happens though if there's if your cycle shows up month, I don't know, 7?
Uh-huh.
Do we hit like the reset button or?
Yep. You got to
Oh
start over.
Jesus,
You got to
Jesus.
start. I know people, women be mad about that. She's like, I've had women tell me she got like to the 10th, 11th month and it had a period. I'm like, she's like, so you got to start again. Sorry, you got to start again.
Shoot. Man,
Yep.
oh man, oh
You got to start over. Yep. Start
man,
the clock over.
oh man. Yeah, my head just went. Yeah, hey, look, they can. Hey, look, I'm just look. I know nothing about nothing. But I'm
Yeah.
listening and learning. And yes, thank you. I mean, the Q&A here, Dr. Ballard is extremely on point with the information. I really like I said, I was excited for tonight, and she's really coming through. And Dr. Ballard, I want to ask then, because then there's the other side or the other part of this, really, in my opinion, tell me if I'm wrong, where we're dealing with the healthcare and the healthcare provider, for our
Yes.
women, right? So how
Yes.
can women better
Oh,
what's the word? I don't want to say partner or whatever with
yeah,
their healthcare provider,
that's a great
you know.
word. I like that word partner. And
Yeah,
that's what
because
I usually tell women. Yeah. You
okay,
want
so
a
please
doctor to partner with you. Right.
okay, so we
Um,
on the same page. And so what specific questions then, should
yeah.
they ask and really in that exam room, if you will, so that they don't feel dismissed? Because I hear that a lot, especially with women
Yes.
of color.
Right.
Like
Right.
is in their head or something wrong with them.
Yes.
So,
Mm-hmm.
could you
Yep.
kind of talk to that, please?
Yeah, most definitely. Great question. Yeah, it's very common that, women, especially women of color, get dismissed and, not seen and not heard when they go to the doctor's office. And I think, number one, when we have these conversations with our physicians, we really have to, feel, feel the room when we talking to this doctor, right? This doctor is supposed to be your partner in your health.
Mhm.
Um, and if you're in that, well, first we have to, you know, when you go into the doctor's office, you want to arm yourself with some information about yourself, right? So have your list of symptoms if you're having symptoms, questions if you have questions, and then, you know, present that information or those questions to your doctor and, you know, see what their responses are. If these responses are some responses that you either, you know, don't like, or you feel, you know, feel dismissed, there are some points where you may have to find a different doctor. And I am very, you know, pro firing doctors if you need to, because in this stage of life, you really need somebody to partner with you. Like, this is not something you should be doing all by yourself and fighting somebody about taking whatever, right? So you want to, you know, like I said, arm yourself with the, you know, information that you may have researched on your own, and bring that information to your doctor, ask them what they think. And then ask them, you know, so how do you feel about, you know, how do you normally manage menopausal, perimenopausal women? What are your thoughts about supplements? What are your thoughts about hormone therapy? And just get a sense of, you know, something that you feel comfortable with, you know, you feel like they are listening to you, you feel like they're, you know, being receptive to your questions or to your responses. And then, you know, you can ask for, you know, they provide other resources that already providing, you know, a book to read or a podcast to listen to, or, you know, things like that, just to kind of get a sense of, you know, where they're coming from. But you really definitely want a doctor who sees you, who hears you, and is willing to work with you. Because this is not a one size fit all type of management. Like, every woman is different. Everyone's journey can be different. So it just really requires a physician to, you know, partner with you through that season.
That's important. Lisa, you know, I'm sorry, you know, to see, you know, you dropped that in the chat, you know, that was
Lisa.
you. I hope that this information that Dr. Ballard provided really helps you. And I'm praying that, you know, we and you have moved on past that situation there in a better situation. Veronica dropped a question, and please educate me. Because she asks, you know, what are some natural alternatives to HRT? So I'm gonna throw my hand up. Could you talk to Mr. Cunningham and first of all explain what HRT is, and then can you answer Veronica's question?
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you for that question, Veronica. HRT essentially is hormone replacement therapy. Now it's called menopause hormone therapy, or MHT, whichever. They're basically the same thing. It's essentially hormone therapy that can be offered to women. It's more likely HRT, or menopause hormone therapy, is indicated primarily for vasomotor symptoms, which is your hot flashes and night sweats, or vaginal symptoms, or genital urinary, which is vaginal urinary symptoms. Those are the top two reasons why women are offered those options as far as therapy. But there are natural alternatives to HRT. You don't have to take hormones if you don't want to, right? Or if you have a contraindication to taking hormones. Some women can't take hormones because they have history of blood clots or high blood pressure. So natural alternatives, there is a ton of them out there. And it really, one of my favorites is ashwagandha. And that is a herb because it's what we call an adaptogen, because of the way it helps your body adapt to stressors. Because really, this whole perimenopause, into menopause, and beyond, your body senses stress. And it can actually be an inflammation, like an inflammatory response. So this ashwagandha kind of helps your body adapt to it. And then essentially kind of soothe some of the symptoms of, you know, where it's sleep. Some women can take it and have improvement with their sleep. They can have improvement with hot flashes. Again, everybody's different. But it's kind of like, you know, one of those things that I've found a lot of women have some benefits to. And then other natural things, it really kind of depends on what's going on. You know, hot flashes, there's also black cohosh, which is a thing you can get, herbal over the counter that you can get to help with hot flashes. There are There is a website called Hello Bonafide that has natural supplements for hot flashes, as well as mood changes, as well as, vaginal changes. So there's definitely natural things out there. But certainly I still advise you to talk to a doctor about what you're thinking about taking, because you don't want to take what I don't want women to do, what I've seen, is come in with a whole grocery bag of supplements. And because that makes things worse, right?
Yeah.
So because all these things can interact with each other and then with your body. So you really want to be intentional about what would be the best thing for you that can cover a multitude of symptoms or the major symptoms. Because a lot of times we can take care of the major symptoms, it's kind of a domino effect. Everything else kind of falls in line and you feel better just overall. So talk to a doctor about what supplements that potentially could help you if you did not want to or cannot take hormone therapy.
That brings up a very good point. Kind of self-medicating and things like that, throwing off your own balance and things, because then it leads into kind of like what you were saying. It kind of leads into like that physical and emotional impact that really kind of is now another aspect really of it. And then, like you said, you're adding these hormones. I mean, these other additives to your body. Right. I want to ask with that, and I guess it's kind of like a two-part question then. When it comes to physical symptoms, let's start there. Mm-hmm. What are some of the lesser known symptoms or most overlooked signs of perimenopause that you see in your patients and clients, beyond the hot flashes, if you will, and the night sweats? And, I want to start there because it's kind of like a two-part question.
Yeah. So yeah, there are over 30 symptoms of perimenopause, right? And I usually break it up into physical, mental, psychosocial, and then vaginal and urinary symptoms. So the ones that are overlooked or lesser known, what I find a lot of women get surprised by is the vaginal symptoms. They're like, I didn't know this can be a thing. Like, what? Oh. The vaginal dryness, the urinary symptoms where they're having frequent urinary tract infections, those type of things. Many women don't really realize that can be related to perimenopause. And then also kind of overlooked, they kind of think that it's something else, is sleep disturbance. They feel like, oh, I'm not sleeping because, I got all these things going on in my life, and they kind of blame it on something else, as opposed to this can be related to, your hormones. So I think kind of those two physical symptoms, many women are either overlooking it or just really surprised by this actually is a thing, with perimenopause.
So that's what I'm glad you said, because I wanted you to help drive to this then. Like, what or how can women, work to recognize these might be symptoms, that are hormonally driven, and, outside of maybe, contacting their doctor, like, what else can they do? Because I think that's really important, because now you're having all of this going on. Because like what terrifies me, sometimes people sleep, you think it's your blood pressure or, different stressors, but, that could be a huge issue. It sounds like, if that goes unchecked, and you don't recognize it. So, what can people do to really work to recognize that and take action?
Yeah. Great question. Also want to shout out, hey, Debbie, I see her in the chat. Mm-hmm. I think first, slowing down to listen to your bodies. I think we are so, caught up in life, right? There's so many things going on in our lives, whether it's children, whether it's our careers, our businesses. Like, we're doing all these things and we really don't take the time to slow down and feel our bodies and pay attention to what is actually going on. Headaches can also be one that women like, because I just, was stressing over this, but that can also be perimenopause. Right. So listening to our bodies, feeling what we're feeling, documenting, like writing it down. Because, a lot of times we go into the doctor's office and we forget about what's been going on, for
Yeah.
months, right?
Yeah.
So writing it down, documenting it, and then talking to your doctor about it, right? Like, I think a lot of times women, we wait to our annual, exam, our GYN exams, right? And we go in with all the questions, but you are allowed to go in before that and just have what we call a problem visit, and just to talk about these things, about things that you've noticed that has changed. When
Right.
when you get to, once you reach, late 30s, 40s, you'll probably start to notice some changes. So it really takes you to actually paying attention to those changes to figure out, is it something, related to hormones versus is it something else like thyroid or high blood pressure, things like that. But I think it definitely causes us to slow down and be still with ourselves so that we can feel what our bodies are feeling and noticing these changes, documenting it, and then talking to our doctors about, okay, I'm experiencing this. Is this something that I should be worried about? Is this something that can be related to my hormones? Like, what can I expect moving forward as I'm aging, to deal with these things?
Man, Dr. Ballard, you on point. I mean, so much information, and I want to go back to Chelsea. Chelsea, you know, dropped a comment that she's been using light therapy for
Oh,
decades for seasonal affective disorder,
okay.
and she's found that it helps with her sleep cycle. Can you talk about that a little bit? Give us a little education on what that is and what Chelsea may have been dealing with and how effective maybe has been for her
Oh,
or for
you know
someone
what?
else.
Yeah, I honestly don't have a lot of knowledge about light therapy
Okay.
in general. But there's certainly, especially when it comes to sleep, people underestimate
Mm,
the power of a good night's sleep, right?
okay.
So whether it's light therapy, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Um, to help with our sleep cycles. And then again, having you figuring out what is the best fit for you. And I don't know if
Hmm.
Chelsea did some other things beforehand to kind of see, and then came up on this therapy and found that that's the best fit for her. But again,
Right.
everybody is different.
True.
So whether it's that therapy, whether it's just therapy in general, where a lot of times we're going to sleep, but we're anxious. We have anxious thoughts, and all these thoughts
Hmm.
are in the head, and we have to talk to somebody about these things, right? So there's just a different there are different modalities out there that that we have to be open to figuring out what's the best fit for us.
Hmm.
And I appreciate Chelsea for um seeking other modalities, because
Yes.
it doesn't have to be like the regular whatever, right? It can be different things. Acupuncture also, I've had women use to help with perimenopause symptoms, that has actually been beneficial. So it really just kind of depends on the person.
No, I look. I agree because like I'm learning and listening. To everything that you putting down tonight. Is really incredible, and there's so much that really is behind. You know, your hormones, for our women that really we as men we are so oblivious to. I'm just going to put that out there. So oblivious to. Now, really, and I'm learning so much. And Chelsea actually has another question where she's asking, can you speak about workplace accommodations for women, experiencing post-menopause? And this is a great question.
Yeah, that's a great
Unfortunately,
question.
she said she had to quit her part-time job, due to the brain fog and things like that.
Wow. Wow. Chelsea, thank you for that question. That's a very common thing, right? There are millions of women who have quit their jobs, quit their
Mm,
full-on careers because of perimenopause and menopause, which is a very sad
mm,
thing, right?
yeah.
So yes, perimenopause definitely shows up in the workplace, whether you're in the boardroom or, wherever. And it affects our, productivity. We can't focus, the hot flashes, causes embarrassment. Like, there's all kinds of things, brain fog. So, as far as workplace accommodations, I think It first starts with the workplace in general, having the conversation with their employees, right? I have been honored to speak to a couple of organizations where they're actually bringing their employees in to talk with experts about what they're experiencing and then how they can help as an organization their employees when it comes to these perimenopausal symptoms. So when we're talking about allowing, it depends on obviously the workplace, whether it's okay to wear a different type of uniform because of the hot flashes. Is
Mm-hmm.
it okay? Can you provide a space where women can go and have a quiet place to walk away for 5 minutes? The brain fog, it's definitely can be hormonal, but also all the other things that are on our brain, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
brain chemistry definitely changes with these hormonal changes, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also, we can also suffer from just decision fatigue because of all the things that we're thinking about in our brains, right? So having this space where we can just walk away from whatever task that we're doing and just have a quiet space to sit with ourselves for
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes, that can be an accommodation that workplaces can have. Work schedule flexibility, where some women have found themselves being able to work better during late morning to afternoon versus they kind of figure out what their good work ethic or work productivity is best, and that workplace can accommodate them with that type of schedule. So there's
Mm-hmm.
different things that workplaces can do to kind of help with that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it first starts with having the conversation, and that those CEOs or those employers recognizing that midlife women need these accommodations so that
Yeah.
they can show up as their best selves, despite the brain fog, despite the
Mm.
hot flashes and all the things that they're experiencing.
Man, that's tough. Chelsea, thank you so much for sharing that. Unfortunate experience. But I'm with Dr. Ballard. It's going to take some people to really just you know transform, if you will, and really take that to the executives who probably are men like me who are oblivious to what women are dealing with, not only in their personal space but in their work space as well. So great question, and thank you. And I want to go back. Kimberly, good evening, Kimberly. She asked
Thank you.
a question. um, you know, hey, hello, Dr. Joyo. She's experienced heart palpitations. Wow. And I'm praying that you're doing well. With severe hot flashes occurring at the same time. Very scary. Didn't
Hmm.
know heart palpitations can be related to menopause. Again, is that another underlying?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that, Kim. So heart palpitations are definitely another physical symptoms that women are not can be not aware of. And quite honestly,
Hmm.
some
Wow.
doctors are not aware too, right?
Wow.
So when you go in and you having these, severe hot flashes, but these heart palpitations, it's your heart, right? So it's like your heart is racing. You don't know what the heck is going on. Some women can feel like they're having a heart attack. So it can be very scary. So I think it's, certainly again important for, women to recognize that their bodies are experiencing these things, and then being persistent with their physicians, like, okay, I don't know what this is, but something is not right. And to
Mm-hmm.
have those conversations with your doctor to look into, obviously rule out other things, heart
Right.
attack,
Right.
other
Right.
things. But at the same time, there are some doctors who don't have in the back of their minds that this can also be related to menopause.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes us women, we have to educate some of our doctors, unfortunately,
And
about,
that's
that's
being your own advocate, like we were just talking about. You got to learn yourself
right.
to be your own advocate, and be able to stand
Exactly.
up for yourself. Wow,
Exactly.
man,
So,
this
yeah.
this is really incredible. I mean, I'm getting the mind. I'm just learning. I think that Dr. Nika
Hey,
Bagwell,
Dr. Nika.
great information. Yeah, great information, Dr. B, about perimenopause and women's health. You're so inspiring. Yes, she is. Round of applause to Dr. B, man. She a boss. I'm really, really enjoying the conversation. But I wanted also then transition, if you will, Dr. Ballard, to another aspect that I think sometimes we don't really touch in on, and really is about the taboos. We talked about that. We had started talking about it backstage before we got on, but
Mm-hmm.
working to break taboos. And you, from what I understand, learning about you, you've been very open and direct about menopause. That for many cultures, and really our culture, we know we were talking about our culture, kind of
Yeah.
off limits, no conversation,
Right.
like, huh, ta-da, surprise, like, what is this, right?
Right.
So, but from your experience though, and having been doing this for a while, like, what are some of the myths, or the harmful myths, really, or taboos you've encountered? And how are you intentionally working to challenge people, on these thoughts through your Menopause Mogul podcast? Because you're a podcaster too, and we're going to talk about it.
I
I want to hear
am.
it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Menopause Moguls podcast. Check it out.
Harmless plug here, y'all. This is what we do. But go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, definitely, and I appreciate you for having this conversation, because we don't talk about it, especially in our communities.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
and a lot of that too is a lot of us women are conditioned not to talk about our bodies, right?
Right.
So we have to, break that, right? We need to change the narrative about what menopause is, what midlife is, and what it can be. And I think when we the harmful myths that bother me is that we have to do this alone. We have to struggle through this and just deal with it. With a
Mm-hmm.
lot of women I've seen come to my office, and that's what they've been told. Oh, you just deal with it.
Wow.
Just deal with
Wow.
it. And
Wow.
no, you don't have to just deal with it, right? There are things that you can do. And it doesn't have to be hormones. It can be a supplement, or it can just be just simple lifestyle changes. I think we
Mm-hmm.
underestimate that too. Like, you can just change some of the things that you're eating, move your bodies differently, create a more healthier sleep cycle. Again, pour into yourself. Like, all of these things also are very important when we're talking about perimenopause and menopause and beyond. So I think the myth of, like, we just got to deal with it. Like, we just got to
Mm-hmm.
go through the struggle. Like, nah, we not I'm not here for struggle.
I
We're not
understand
gonna
that.
stay on a struggle bus. So we can get
Right.
off the struggle bus and figure out what we need in this season and do that thing,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can thrive and do all the things that we want to do. And I think the other thing that bothers me about just this whole conversation about menopause, like, again, what I mentioned in the beginning, it's all doom and gloom. It's the end
Mm-hmm.
of your life and your vitality. Nah, this is the beginning. This is the
I love
beginning
that.
of the next best version of yourself. I feel like there's so much power in the season of your life, and so much wisdom that you
Mm-hmm.
gain about yourself and how you can move forward and still do all the things that you feel like you've been destined to do. It does not have to be the end. It's certainly the beginning of your next
Speak
best
that.
self. And I want women to really, lean into that and, do the things that they need to do to thrive.
See, I love that, it's that power, right? And that really lends into one, again, like you say, it's like a rebirth, like a phoenix
Yes.
being reborn, right?
Yes.
And
Hmm.
I love that power, because then that really leads into, like, say, your podcast, and really working to help women reform their narrative, right?
Right.
Around
Yes.
menopause, and really being able to show up more, boldly,
Yes.
empowered, as new leaders and entrepreneurs, and really making decisions in this stage of life. And
Yeah.
like, how powerful is that? Because I can only imagine, because just thinking about it, I've been blessed to be in situations to be able to help and work with people and work through different things. And I know that's an amazing feeling, in sense, for me, of not accomplishment, but I've done what I feel like I've been anointed to do, whether it be one person at a time,
Right.
this platform, one episode at a time, one conversation at a time. But what is that like for you? Because it is like helping women just Phoenix reborn, and they're
Yeah.
just tearing up the world because our women are so powerful as it
Yes.
is. What is that like? What is that sense of purpose like for you?
Oh my gosh. It is it is an amazing feeling to be able to provide, the strategy and the support for women, especially Black women. Like, I super
Mm,
serve my Black women, okay? To be able to navigate these midlife streets, and that includes perimenopause, that includes caregiving, that includes motherhood, navigate all of that and still follow your dreams. Like,
mm.
that is just, power within
I love
itself.
that.
And I
Mm,
feel like that, that we all were created for more in these midlife streets.
mhm.
Because, we've been told, like, oh, once you reach 50, then it's downhill from there. Like, nah, we got so much more to do,
That's
right?
right.
And
That's
we
right.
have this empire and this legacy that we still have to, live on. And, just helping women to reach that point where they feel like they know themselves now, they accept and love themselves and trust themselves, and
Mm,
take off from there and do all the things that God's called them to do. That is just an amazing feeling that I really just can't describe.
mm. I love it. I got goosebumps just listening and thinking about no, really, because it's incredible, and this part is really the part that I love the most about being able to do this and meet people, and talk with people each and every week is their stories and their journeys and how much we are really so connected and how
Mhm.
much want to be able to share. I want people, for those of you sitting in the background, I see you, but to be able to reach out to you, now they have a connection, a bond, someone that they can reach out to, a gym in their own backyard that can, if you can't help them, can help point them in the right direction. And I think
Yeah.
that's the empowerment for me. And that really leads. I mean, man, tonight's been a blessing. I couldn't lead into that any better. I want to talk about, you know, the empowerment, if you will, and the action that comes behind this, because we're coming up on the back end. But I think that's
Mhm.
important when we close out this portion of the conversation and really from, maybe your vantage point, Dr. Ballard, and we still working out, and I don't know why they still working out because they should have stopped by now. But uh we got the gremlins working in the background, but we gonna take care of that. Can't go look, and this is live, y'all. So we having fun. We gonna have some fun with this, but yes, the
Yes.
empowerment and action part, like from your vantage point, um,
Mhm.
as menopause and midlife wellness strategist, which is something else, I found out. What are like three practical steps, a woman can take, let's say, I don't want to say this month, let's start March, starting March to advocate for her own personal health.
Okay. Number 1 would be, I need you women to write down 3 things that bring you joy.
Mm,
And one of those things has to be something that you can do every single day.
mm, okay.
Okay? That's number 1. Um, Number 2 is do the thing that brings you joy every single day.
That's important. That's important.
Right? Um, and then I would say number 3, I would moving your
Hmm.
body.
Hmm.
That moving your body has so much power, mentally, physically, emotionally. It's like this universal drug
Hmm.
that covers so
Good
many
point.
bases when you're
That's a
going
good
through
point.
these with these changes. So you doing something that requires you to move your body. That can be dancing, that can be jumping rope, whatever that thing is, something that you like, right? Like, don't look, I'm
Hmm.
not a runner, so I do not go running. Okay. So Don't go running if you don't like running.
Right. Make it something that you like doing so that you can go do it.
Exactly. So, walking, dancing, whatever that thing is. And it doesn't have to be this long, an hour. It can be 15 minutes. It can be whatever time you can carve out of your day to just move would be so powerful in your health and wellness, no matter what you're going through. Because it's, heart health, brain health, like all these things, it's movement is so important. So I would say, like I said, figure out what brings you joy. And what brings you joy? A lot of women, mothers, we say, oh, it's our children, outside the children. No something excuses. You do all by yourself. Okay. Do the thing that brings you joy and then move your body.
I love that. So look, y'all heard it. Whatever it is that you love to do, make it that so that you can do it and you will do it. No excuses. All right. Follow through. Right. And I think that's great because I want to close as we're coming to the end of tonight's amazing conversation with you, Dr. Ballard. For women who are, looking not just for, any type of information, really are looking for, because I think this is an important part too, like a sense of community, to help with that momentum, like what we just talked about.
Right.
What kind of resources, if any, do you offer for our audience? Because I want them, look, guys, I don't know if you just got into this part of the conversation. I don't know how you missed the beginning, but you need to go back and watch this from the beginning on the playback. Because Dr. Joy L. Ballard, she bad, y'all. But I want them to reach out to you, as a resource, and really get connected. But what kind of resources do you recommend? Because I know you have your podcast, which, hey, check her out, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, check out my podcast.
That, right, and other things. But what other resources can you share? And please, before we go, we're gonna let you talk about the podcast. We're gonna come back to that.
Yes. So besides my podcast, I do have a book called Loving Me, Myself, and Her Through Perimenopause and Beyond. Basically a simple guide to kind of tell you all the things you can potentially expect during perimenopause and how you can love yourself through that. And you can get that by subscribing to my website, drjoyl.com, and you can the National Menopause Foundation has great resources on their website where they have kind of mini courses about different types of menopausal symptoms. They also have a menopause checklist to kind of give you an idea of symptom checklist where you can kind of figure out, this symptom may be related to menopause. I happen to also be the medical advisory on that foundation too, just so you know. And then the third one is, I would say, it's called Hey Peri, HeyPerry.com. And it's basically a community of a lot of women in perimenopause that has so many resources on there. You can join a community where they talk about different things. They have experts and things like that on that platform that can answer questions, things like that. So those are probably the top 3 things that I've recommended to women when they're kind of, navigating this stage of life.
Okay. So I got to slide in the 4th one. I got to give you a moment to talk about the podcast because, what can, our audience, we cross segmenting here, ladies and gentlemen, what can our audience and people who are watching this, whenever they watch it on the playback or whatever, what can they expect from Dr. Joyelle, on her show? Kind of give us a sneak peek, if you will.
Yeah, my podcast is kind of different, I think, from other, midlife menopausal podcasts because I don't really talk about symptoms per se, because I honestly feel like it goes deeper than that. It really goes deep into mind shifts that we have to have. It goes deep into how we are listening to our bodies, how we're thinking about ourselves in this stage of life. And it's just different things that we have to take into account, even some from our childhood. It can impact how we experience menopause. So my podcast is more of, my insight of different things underneath the symptoms when we're going through other midlife challenges like caregiving, which I'm in the thick of, caregiving for aging parents. So I talk about that. I talk about, and I really talk a lot about myself. I mean, obviously I got so many stories about myself with my own perimenopause journey and journey with, mothering my 3 kids. So it's more about, just kind of going deeper and really more about empowering women through the stage of life and teaching them how to love themselves through this stage as they're navigating these challenges, and also, being open to their purpose changing and going, walking in their purpose as they're going through these midlife streets.
Okay. Look here, y'all. Check out Dr. Joyelle. Check out our podcast. But I gotta ask one more because I just got another quick question that just somebody knows. I guess they didn't want to ask. Send it to me. Um. So and this is, I think it's funny because this was one of the questions that I had actually gotten before. Um.
Okay.
Basically, it's one of those where how do, like, say, relationship wise, like how do you handle the changes, in
Mhm.
intimacy, in your
Yeah.
relationship during menopause? Because
Yeah.
that it's got to be tough, I
That's
guess.
Yeah, that's challenging, right?
Mhm,
And I think the first step is to, as women, we really have to be open to being vulnerable to have that
mhm,
conversation. Because I've had
mhm,
so many women come to the office who are afraid to even talk about what their changes are happening in their bodies when it comes to intimacy with their partners.
mhm,
So I think as women, we have to be vulnerable to to being open to having that conversation with your partner, to
mhm.
let them know that I'm having this vaginal dryness. It hurts when we have sex.
Mm.
So they can like, okay, that's what's happening, because they don't know. They're just like,
Right.
guess, oh, maybe it's me. I don't know. So I think being open to being vulnerable with your partner empathizing and listening. Also, we talked about listening before and being supportive. And
Right.
then sometimes I recommend even women bringing their partners to their visits, their GYN visits, to have those
Mm,
conversations with their partners in the room.
mm.
So they'll know, from the actual doctor, this ain't nothing that we made up. Like, I'm just not making this
Right.
up,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
So invite them into the conversation, the partner into the conversation, so they'll have firsthand
Mm,
information of how, what's happening to their partner's bodies, and then, again, how they can support, them in that moment, and that can be anywhere from, having just more conversation. Does it require, certain lubricants? It just
lubricants
really
and things.
kind of
Yeah.
depends on what the thing is. But I think, the first step is definitely just being vulnerable enough to have the conversation with your partner and not have it be a secret and you trying to figure it out all on your
You're
own.
by yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man. Whew. Ladies and gentlemen. What else can I say? But what a heck of an hour. This has been a very educational and open conversation. I thank you, Dr. Ballard, for just being who you are, being incredible, and really helping educate us. I want to thank our audience, for really
Yeah. Thank
participating.
you.
Great questions tonight. Share this episode and this conversation with a friend. This needs to happen more often in our homes and our communities, having this open type of conversation. And I'd be remiss, Dr. Ballard, without asking you to please share your social media information, your website, and everything where people can reach out to you, get your resources. We'll go ahead and update this episode and we'll put all of that information in the show notes because we want to go ahead and support you and the work that you're doing in our community.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you so much, Damon, for having this conversation. I really appreciate you inviting me. This has been so much fun. Like, I'm always open to have this conversation, obviously, 'cause this is my jam. But I appreciate everyone joining in on the conversation. Definitely great questions in the audience. You can subscribe to my website, drjoyelle.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Dr. Joyelle, DRJOYEL, as well as LinkedIn on, as Dr. Joyelle Ballard.
All right. Well, that right there, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get ready to put a pin on an amazing evening. But I want to leave you with a few things before we go. One, you can check us out. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, our regularly scheduled show. Two mics up, myself and my co-host will be back. We'll be talking about, an uncomfortable truth. We'll be talking about Martin Luther King here in 2026. As we move into Black History Month, We got 4 weeks of some powerful conversations. So make sure you go ahead and put that on your calendar each and every Tuesday for Black History Month. We're gonna be hitting you up with some real conversation. And look, if you want to follow the show, hey, I'd love to have you. Feel free to go ahead and follow Two Mics Up, across all our social media, IG, Facebook, X, YouTube, you name it. We're just about everywhere. Online at www.twomicsup.com. We are a 4-time award-winning talk show with real guests, having that real dope talk like we did tonight with Dr. Joy L. Ballard. And before we get out of here, I want to leave you all with a closing comment, if you will. And I just really want to take a moment, and I hope that you all really enjoyed tonight's conversation. This has been powerful beyond belief. It's been insightful beyond my wildest imagination. And I really believe it was long overdue. Dr. Ballard and I, we talked about this behind the, set about how long I've been trying to actually bring this to life, and to have, God puts things in your path and in your life that things happen when they're supposed to. And this was supposed to happen, and I'm honored to have Dr. Ballard be a part of this. She reminded us that menopause isn't the end of anything. It's really just the beginning, if not more. Now you can be more intentional, you're more informed, and you are now ready to really be more empowered in your life. From breaking down the difference between perimenopause and menopause, to challenging myths, advocating for yourself in the exam room, and just really owning, you know, your midlife as a season of purpose. 'Cause that's what I walked away with. There's nothing but tremendous possibility in this second form of our adult lives. Dr. Ballard gave us, the tools really to be able to transition with clarity and to have that confidence that so many of us really don't have and we really need. Big shout out and big thanks to you, Dr. Ballard, for dropping gems, and to all of you for tuning in and showing up, you know, for these real conversations that we like to have here each and every week. That's all about real change. So I'm your host, Damon Cunningham, reminding you to always keep the conversation going, keep lifting your voice, because your story and your health really matter. Like we do at the end of each and every conversation, ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave you with a couple of things. May you all stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.
Double O 07.
I can't hear you. Oh.
Yeah.